Welcome back, Netrunner fans, to part 2 of my 2015 retrospective. In this part, we're going to be looking back at the runner cards from the year. I'll give you my top 10 picks for best cards, and at the end of the video, I'm also going to give you my pick for worst card of the year. Like I said in part 1 of the video, 2015 was really about the establishment and development of a core group of tournament decks that were really the basis of all metagaming and jostling for position throughout the year. And while Anarch rose to a position of diversity and a lot of strong decks at the top, Kate was still a major defining player of this year's metagame. We definitely saw a standard list of Kate emerge, powered by prepaid voice pad, lots of economy, lots of card draw, lots of tutor, lots of recursion, and it was really able to use Clot as a solution to NBN Fast Advance in a way that no other faction could do. Beyond Kate, the biggest story is definitely all about Anarchs. Noise was probably the second most popular runner of the year and remained really strong throughout. He got a lot of new tools and was able to do a lot of things even better and even more consistently than he was in the past. That said, Noise had some serious competition at the top. We saw the introduction of Max, both with standard breakers as well as the more Siphon Eater oriented build. We saw Valencia and Max, both based on data leak reversal, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in the list. We also saw Wizard gain a lot of traction as a way to trash near-Earth hub assets, trash HB assets, just get in there and do damage with each run. And all of these decks jostled for position and were among the tier 1 decks throughout the year. Criminal remained plagued by the same problems they've had in the past, weak economy and weak icebreakers. And we saw both the economies and icebreakers of the other two factions get much better throughout the year. So I think really Criminal took a back seat as Anarchs with Kate drove the tournament scene. My last major trend is that this was definitely the year of hosers and hate cards on the runner side of the game. Not only did we get a few new ones that had really powerful effects against very narrow corp cards, but we also saw the resurgence of things like Plascrete Carapace, and it was increasingly common for decks to use 2 to 3, even 4 slots just to play a wide variety of these effects. So as the Corp kind of established this core group of decks that had predictable effects you were going to see in every tournament, it became way more acceptable and even obligatory to include a few of this type of card in your deck. In fact, there was even a sort of reciprocal effect on the Corp side as well, as Corps had to play counters to the counters that the runners were playing. I'd like to kick off my list with a pick for the Criminal players out there. My honorable mention is going to be Drug Dealer from Old Hollywood. This is a neat little design that I think will really help Criminals going forward. There's two really critical things to understand about this card. First is that if your turn begins and you don't have any money, you don't have to pay the 1, so that's pretty easy to do with a lot of Criminal decks. The other point is that you draw the card when the Corp turns begins. So in other words, you're going to have already discarded down to your maximum hand size. This is effectively going to give you an extra card on the Corp's turn. And that's nice, especially against meat damage effects like Scorched Earth. It's also really cheap to install and is a connection, so if we see more connection-driven stuff, this could definitely be good in the future. I think this card is one of the better Criminal cards of the year, and I think it's got a lot of potential going forward. Now we're going to start the list proper with my number 10 pick. That's Netrunner Eyes from Chrome City. There was a ton of interest in this card when it first came out, and I think it's settled down a little bit, but this is still seeing some play in Anarchs. The big thing about this is that you can use it to meet strength requirements if you're using fixed strength breakers like Atman, Mimic, or Yogg. And Yogg was probably the most notable thing with the release of this card. Data Sucker Yogg was very, very vulnerable to Lotus Field, and Netrunner Eyes was a nice solution to that, especially in the heyday of RP where Lotus Fields were extremely common. My number 9 pick is Symmetrical Visage from the Valley. This got kind of colloquially known as Baby, and I think that this has been a pretty useful card in a pretty wide range of decks throughout the year. This is basically just a professional context that you can only use once a turn, and that's still pretty good for a lot of decks. Especially early in the game, you want to draw cards, and getting that credit while you draw a card is just really, really nice to help you get set up to be able to set up your rig and get the cards you need to get going with runs. It's great to have a neutral economy tool like this, and I expect there to be one or two of this card in a pretty wide range of decks going forward. My number 8 pick for the year is Adjusted Chronotype from the Valley. Here's another card with an alias. This got known as Pancakes, and the big interaction here is with Wildside. You can use these two together to draw 2 cards for free every turn. Man, that's powered Noise in a way that we really haven't seen before. Noise being able to get 4 clicks and 2 cards every turn is absolutely insane, and we saw a few other Anarch decks utilize that as well. A lot of the Data Leak Reversal decks considered this as just a way to draw into the combo pieces quicker. This is just an awesome way to just get a huge draw engine going, and I expect this to be the main way that Anarchs draw tons of cards going forward. My number 7 pick for 2015 is Ive Had Worse from Order and Chaos. Here's another contributing factor to the rise of Anarch. Not only is this basically just Diesel, it's going to draw you cards when you need it, it's also got a lot of utility against meat damage effects, net damage effects as well, but especially against double Scorched Earth. And the fact that you can play these without really putting hosers in your deck, it's not like Plascrete where you're just going to have a totally useless card. You can always just play this to draw cards against decks that aren't doing damage. If we're going to have hosers, this is the way I like to see them done. This is just a very useful, very good card that also has some utility against meat damage effects, and it's competing with other draw effects in a faction that's already pretty good at draw. My number 6 pick for the year is Film Critic from Old Hollywood. Here's the first really hard hoser that's on the list, and this is a big paradigm shift for some Corp cards. I think the biggest are things like mid-season replacements or punitive Counter-Strike. Both of these are not guaranteed to work anymore. We also saw this being really effective, I think is a big reason why RP got pushed out in favor of HB, because RP relies on defensive effects like Future Perfect and NAPD Contract to avoid its agendas being stolen, and Film Critic is a really, really solid solution to that type of card. My number 5 pick for the year is Max from Order and Chaos. While Noise and Val were definitely in the mix for top Anarch of the year, I think it's fair to say that Max is the biggest story for Anarch runners this year. Her ability to just mill cards and then use things like Clone Chip or Deja Vu as tutoring has been absolutely huge, and we've seen a very, very wide range of strategies employed with Max. We've seen Max that's just kind of standard breakers. We've seen Max that uses the Data Leak Reversal thing. We've seen very siphon, aggressive Max. All around, Max has seen a ton of interest and has been a major, major player within Anarchs this year. My number 4 pick is Street Peddler from the Underway. Here's another absolutely monstrous card for Noise and a bunch of the other Anarch decks this year. You're pretty much always going to get 2 or 3 useful cards with Street Peddler, and it's going to help you find and set up the things that you need early in the game when you need them the most. This is a really sweet design. I love the fact that you can use this during a paid ability window, and this is just exactly the type of thing that I think Anarch needed to kind of accelerate both its draw and economy. My number 3 pick for the year is Wireless Net Pavilion from the Universe of Tomorrow. Basically, this is the card that pushed Data Leak Reversal into a real strategy and has been a major player at the end of this year, especially at Worlds. The rise of Data Leak Reversal is definitely one of the biggest reasons why noise has started to plateau a bit. We just have a bunch of other decks that can do the milling thing, and I think Val is really the most popular one now because the best solution to Data Leak Reversal, which is All-Seeing Eye, is easily defeated if you just play Val and your opponent starts with a bad pub. The rise of Data Leak Reversal Val is particularly illustrative of one of the major trends this year. We started playing Val as a counter to their counter, which was a counter to our strategy. And I think that this whole playing of hard counters, metagaming against hard counters thing was one of the major trends throughout the tournament scene this year. My number 2 pick of the year is Faust from the Underway. This was the missing puzzle piece in a wide range of Anarch decks. Not only did Noise use this to tremendous effect, especially once they had the Pancakes Wildside thing as a way to feed fodder into Faust, Faust also interacted well with the Data Sucker sort of thing, and all around just immediately slotted into a bunch of different decks. Faust was also really effective in the Data Leak Reversal deck since you played a lot of garbage and you were drawing lots of cards anyway, so if you really needed to break, you could just discard superfluous stuff. The use of cards instead of credits is a major twist in Icebreaker technology, and I think this card is going to continue to see tons of play going forward. The fact that you don't need a big economy to get through even some of the biggest ice in the game is really contributed to this card's success, and I think that this card has forced a lot of corporation decks to rethink types of things that they're playing, to metagame more against it with stuff like Wraparound or Turing. Now we come to my number 1 runner pick for 2015, and that's Clot from the Valley. There's a ton of subtext involved in why I'm picking this at number 1. This was printed as the first real address, real solution to the Astro Chain NBN Fast Advance deck. And the main reason I'm putting this so high up on the list is because we've had a year to play with this, and I think this is going to go down as a spectacular failure. This card has caused both Fast Advance players to move away from Fast Advance, focusing more on Butcher Shop, or just playing more metagame solutions to Clot in their deck, like Shipment from Sansan or Cyberdeck's Virus Suite. At the same time, Shaper has been absolutely the best well-equipped to use Clot, and I think that's had a lot to do with why Kate has been so consistent throughout the year. Anarch players can pack a few copies of this in their deck, and they can hope to draw them or get some clone chips set up with them. But with Shaper, we have both SMC and clone chip to go find Clots when we need it, and we don't have to install it ahead of time. Kate versus Near Earth Hub was one of the most popular tournament matchups of the year, and the whole Clot versus anti-Clot cards was just a very huge aspect of that matchup. Clot also prompted a bunch of discussions in the community about the role of AstroScript and also about design philosophy associated with hard counters like this. While I think it's fair to say that the opinions of the community are pretty mixed on this card, it's also fair to say that this hasn't really done what it set out to do, that NEH is still a really strong Fast Advance archetype, and that it's really just contributed to the rise of hate and anti-hate cards. Regardless of what you think about this card, I think it's fair to say that this is the most notorious card on the runner side of the game this year, and that's why I picked it as my number 1 pick for the year. Before we go, I'd like to give my pick for the worst runner card of 2015, and this one was pretty straightforward in my mind. I'm going to go with Chrome Parlor from Chrome City. Beyond the fact that the only one of the cybernetics that's really seen any play is Net Ready Eyes, this is pretty much exactly what I don't like in card design. Not only do I not like card interactions that are forced like this, but this card does absolutely nothing until you get another cybernetics card. So that not only requires you to have this in play before you find your cybernetics thing, but you also get no value from this card until you do find the cybernetics thing. If you've watched my reviews, you've probably heard me say that cards that don't do anything on their own are almost universally horrible. And this is pretty much case in point, the cleanest example of that I can possibly think of. This might as well just say, does absolutely nothing unless you're playing one of 4 other cards, and even with those, it has a marginal effect. We've come to the end of my 2015 retrospective. I think it's fair to say that 2015 was the best year for Netrunner yet. Not only did we see a maturity in some of the designs in the products we had this year, but the tournament scene also had the most diversity, and I think was the most well-attended tournament scene to date. This has been a huge year for the development of the game, and while I think myself and others have been critical of things like Clot and some of the ways that some of the problems of the game have been handled, the tournament scene is still as diverse and vibrant as it's ever been, and I think that the game just keeps getting bigger and the fan base grows every day. Thanks for spending a little bit of your 2015 with me, and if you liked the video, be sure to subscribe, press the button that looks like a thumbs up, and feel free to tell me how I'm right or wrong in the comment section below. I'll see you soon for some more Netrunner stuff.